Well, Flemington's, I'd imagine it's like a cricketer walking into Lord's, you know, or you go into Augusta. You know, as soon as you come through the gates, you know this is a special place. And I mean, it's embedded in your psyche as a young person that Flemington is the greatest racetrack we have in Australia. It's the place with all the history. Yeah, you just know, there's an atmosphere about it that's quite unique. From the time I got given a VCR of the King and the Man tape, you know, like Kingstown and Mendicarno, I must have watched it hundreds of times, wore it out. You know, there was always a sense of that's where I have to be, and I was always striving to be that. A Group 1 rider on the big stage, it was implanted in my psyche at a very young age. So as a 15-year-old kid, he'd give me a pat on the back and say, yeah, you've done, that's exactly what you wanted to achieve and you achieved it. So it wasn't, I'm not saying it wasn't a surprise, but you know, when you really set your goals and your targets and you never take your eye off the prize the whole time throughout your whole career, yeah, I mean, it's just a sense of achievement, and you knew that that's what you wanted to do.
Has it always been your goal to be a jockey, like when you were growing up? Or?
No, not really. We were just mixed farmers. I've been riding horses since I was 4 years old, so I was always involved with horses and always in love with the animal. I was intrigued with them from the first time I met them when I was 4 years old, and I'm still intrigued with the animal now. So the love has always just been there, and it's grown throughout the years. I was just a kid thrashing around in paddocks on horses, you know, flat out all the time. I could really ride a horse, you know, we did the show circuits and all that sort of stuff, and equestrian, eventing when I was a teenager. And then it wasn't until my grandmother took me to the races when I was 15. We went to Gympie races, and that was where I experienced the first time what a racetrack was, or a racehorse. And we drove in and we parked down near the stockyard sheds, and that was right next to about the 300 metre mark at Gympie Racetrack, and it was on the outside of the fence. The horses would come around the corner, and when you experience on ground level, when horses are only 10 metres away, the ground just shakes, you know, and it's just this amazing noise, you know, that you get. And I was instantly hooked. I just couldn't believe what I just seen. And I got back to school in Caboolture High School on Monday, quit school, and I was actually back at Gympie Turf Club being introduced to Terry Chinner, who was going to be my master the weekend after. That was how quickly the turnaround was. I told my mum I'm quitting school, I'm going to be a jockey, and she was like, and I had no idea what was involved, or how this was going to happen, but I spoke to my grandmother and I said, can you, and she's made it happen, yeah. So I met this guy, and he's like 6 foot, he's a huge man, right, 6'6", he's a big strapping guy, and I'm this skinny little weed. Anyway, he took me into the jockey's room at Gympie, and I jumped on the scales, and I was about 45 or 46 kilos. I was about the same height as I am now. I was always a tall and skinny kid, and one of the old jockeys said, oh, you'll never make it, son, you're too big and you're going to be too heavy, you know, and I didn't care. I said, well, who cares, mate? I'll have as much fun as this as I can until I get heavy, you know, no big deal. And that first year I won the seniors title and the apprentices title. I smashed him, you know, yeah. And I only rode for about, I think I rode for 7 months that year and won both titles, yeah. So that old fella never stood a chance, you know, the one that give it to me.
Did he come back and say anything to you after?
Oh, I don't think so. I think he was probably too embarrassed to, but yeah, I rounded him up pretty quick, and then I got my indentures transferred to the Gold Coast, and that's where it really kicked off.
Do you remember that first win, the first win you had?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a little mare called Bassatika, and it was a 300 metre sprint, and it was a thrill. And all I remember, it was over like that. You know, I mean, I know it was a short race, but from the time I broke from the barriers to the time I got to the winning post and I won, it was almost so fast that I couldn't believe it. And I remember my boss, he said, don't worry, this will get slower and slower and slower for you. You know, the moments that you'll have on a horse, you'll be able to have a cup of tea on their back soon enough. And that's how it actually ended up being. It's just, the more you do something, the more comfortable you feel, the slower it becomes, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I do remember that first one. It was an absolute ripper.
What was your wildest dream when you were 15 or 16 years of age in terms of racing?
Cox Plates, Melbourne Cups. That's my wildest dream, yeah, and I achieved them both. They're the biggest prizes we have, and the Melbourne Cup is our biggest prize, right? So it's the one that, and I tell you how much it means to me, or any jockey. My first experience when I I should have won and I didn't win was on Champagne.
Champagne, and Torfin's Melody is coming with her. Jezebel tackled by Champagne now. They reach the 200 metres. The New Zealand mares together. Jezebel and Champagne. Yorkshire pushing through from Torfin's Melody. Persian Punch. Champagne from Jezebel. Champagne and Jezebel kicking back. Jezebel kicks on the inside. Jezebel beat Champagne and New Zealand.
I ran second to Jezebel and, 50 metres out from the post, I was winning the Melbourne Cup. I kind of felt her faltering with 20 or 30 metres to go, like just her stride was just shortening up underneath me where it wasn't, 50 metres out. And I got that Melbourne Cup ripped away because I actually had it in my hand. I could picture it in my hand and it got ripped away. I went back into the disappointment and the feelings I got of getting beat. I went back into the rooms and I was physically ill. Like I vomited. It was just cutting me up that, and it took me weeks to get over that. That's how much it means to you. So on the flip side, when you do win it, that's the emotion. The other side, it's an incredible experience. Even this year, when you're seeing James McDonald win it, like he's done some really cool things, and he said, oh, that's just different level. The experience, and I told him that's what's going to happen when you win it, and he got it. You know what I mean? Michelle Payne, just a great rider, toiling away, and she got the Melbourne Cup, and it just transformed her whole life. That's what it does. It turns you into, it's just something, you go to another place. Yeah, I got to a point in my life where I just felt like I shouldn't be here anymore, and yeah, I did a stupid thing.